Hello out there, and today we're doing my first review of a rake knife, and this one is the Ruike Fang, and it is number P105Q. But I want to give you a little bit of background on what drew me to the company Ruike first, because so much of this review is going to be about expectations versus reality, and I want to show you how my expectations for these models were set. Alright, because the first rake knife that I was actually interested in is this one right here, which obviously I eventually was able to get, the P831, because I saw this online and I saw just this really neat picture of the knife, the beautiful blade shape, almost like a Wharncliffe, basically a Wharncliffe, but also, just really slim and sleek and streamlined, lightweight, and I thought it was a really impressive design and I wanted to get it. And this knife wasn't available at the time, so I ended up buying the Fang model, the other rake, because I just wanted one of their knives in my hands. But looking at this one, there are a lot of similarities to another Chinese company that also uses the Sandvik 14C28N as their base steel, which is real steel. All right, so all of the things that I had to look at, the ways that I was setting my expectation for the rake knives is based off of my experience with real steel, with the H6 model that I used to have, and with this E571, and with all of the other information that I've seen about real steel. And when it comes to comparing knives to real steel, this one is actually, sort of right on par with what I would expect and what I've seen from real steel. And I will do a review about this knife as well in the future, so no worries about that. And it is a good one. But the point today is that this Fang, if I was comparing this to the knives that I've had from real steel, this one just blows it out of the waters. It's a really great knife, and it exceeded my expectations in so many ways. All right, so I'm not going to say that this is the best knife that I've had in 2017, because it's not. And I'm not going to say that it's my favorite, because it's not. But when it comes to the expectations that you have every time you make a purchase, you think a knife is going to be a certain way, and then you get it. How is it actually? This knife exceeded my expectations to a level that no other knife has in a long, long time. All right, the quality of this knife, the build, the materials, just the way that it functions, everything about this knife has impressed me so far. And we're going to get into all of that, but I wanted to start with that so that you could really have that background and understand why I'm as happy about this knife as I am. All right, so starting with the packaging, one thing that I really like about this knife is the way that it's presented. It comes in another sleeve that also says Ruike, and then on the inside you can see that it has the mold that's cut out really similar to what you get from Boker. So your knife fits right in there, wrapped up. And then also another neat thing is that your paperwork is actually specific to the model that you chose. So not that this is going to be helpful to everybody and that you need this, but there's actually a picture of the knife that you bought inside the packaging. So it's not really just a generic type of packaging for every single one of their knives. So just neat little touches that add to the value that you get. All right, but let's get into the knife itself. So here it is. This is the Fang, the P105Q. All right. Running on bearings, manual flipper, really smooth, and you can see that it almost completely fills the frame because this is a larger knife than most of the knives that I pick up. We have about a 3.6-inch blade length. It is a spear point blade of that Sandvik 14C28N, so you can see that profile right here. Really, really attractive spear point. Nice hollow grind here as well, so really good slicer. And let me bring out the scale, because this is a little bit of a hefty knife. You can see it's not thin by any stretch of the imagination. Thick, beefy, really nice thick scales and liners. So it does come in at 5.11 ounces. But when we get to the ergonomics, you'll see that it just fits really well in the hand, which helps to cut that weight functionally. All right, so really like the blade. I really like the polish on the blade. You can see some scratches on it already because I have used it pretty tough. I have been using this knife a whole lot. One, because I wanted to test it, but two, I really just enjoy it as well. but the polish and the finish on the blade is great. And then you can also see just a level of polish and a nice finish on the liners and the hardware that you don't see in a lot of budget production knives. So impressed with that as well. You know, just the few little touches that give this knife a little bit better of a look. So, and also you guys know how much I love polished hardware, so there is that. All right, but putting the knife back down, just getting a look at the lines and the shape of it, I just think it's a really attractive knife. The colors of the G10 are great, and yeah, just looking at it, very, very pleased with the overall design. And then when we get it into the hand, it just continues to improve because the jimping is a lot better than what you would expect on a budget knife or, you know, a lot of the overseas produced knives. Really good and grippy. The ramp is shaped perfectly so that your thumb gets really good grip in there. And then as we move back to the G10, you can't see the depth of it, but everywhere where these layers, you know, the layers pop out, there's grooves. You know, the layered G10, the colors, you know, mean that we're going down into different layers of it. And so there's a groove here and a groove here and a little bit of one here. And so when you're holding the knife in your hand, locking it in with the thumb, you got your forefinger right here in one groove, and then your middle finger comes up and fits perfectly, I mean perfectly into the second one. So the knife locks in really well. Really nice and ergonomic, comfortable, zero hot spots. When we get to the clip, even though the clip isn't perfect, the clip doesn't dig in anywhere, at least for me. You know, you can sort of see how it just is going to sit there. So just very, very good ergonomically, comfortable to use. Not a lot of other ways that you can hold the knife just because you do have the guard from the flipper, so you can't really choke up safely. But, you know, if you needed to do some more detailed work, you could choke up and hold it like this. It's just fine that way. So I suppose that would work. All right, and let's just take a closer look at this G10. One of the most impressive things about this knife for me is just the quality of the work done on the G10. You know, really attractive, good layers. There is another color configuration where it's black and gray. That's good looking as well, but the blue just really pops. Really good looking, even on both sides. So yeah, just adds a lot of attractive and functional use, certainly. All right, and then moving back to the pocket clip, we have a one position clip. It is tip up only. It's perfectly functional. I don't necessarily love the look of it. It's a little bit unique, but this little piece here in the middle, it does help grab the clothes, and it doesn't make it too hard to get in and out of the pocket, but it does keep it secure. So as far as the way it uses, it's just fine. But the one thing that's odd about it is that the name, the Ruike name, is printed upside down. So if it's sitting in your pocket, you know, it's gonna just look a little bit weird. So I'm not sure if that was a mistake or what, but just something I noticed when I was checking out the knife. All right, as far as fit and finish goes, the backspacer here is pretty nicely flush with the liners, and the liners are pretty flush with the G10, so no real complaints there. As you can see though, we do not have open frame construction, but we do have a ton of milling on the inside to try to cut weight every place that we can. So those 5.1 ounces probably could have been closer to 6, but they did a really good job, you know, just milling out the liners every place that they could. And the width of the knife makes it pretty easy for you to get in there with a Q-tip or something and clean if and when you need to. All right, so now let's get to what is probably my favorite part, and that is the action. Guys, this knife is smooth. All right, you can see pretty good centering right here. Not quite perfect, but pretty good. But the knife is silky smooth, running on bearings, and it just flicks open really well. You know, flips nicely, extremely smooth, opens easily. Some of the flippers that I've seen, the manual ones that open the best, are the ones with the best detents. You know, I'm thinking about the new Kershaw Fraction or my Browse Blades Bionic. That it's not really easy to disengage them and break that detent, but once you do, the knife flies open and it can't be stopped. Well, this knife doesn't have the best detent. I mean, it's good enough, the knife's not going to fall open, but what opens the knife as easily as it does is the fact that it's just that smooth. I haven't taken the knife apart, so I haven't seen how the bearings actually work, but it is running on bearings, and I mean, they're doing a great job. The only negative aspect of the opening and closing is you can probably hear this. There's a little bit of squeak that you can hear when you close the knife or open it slowly. When you just like push it open with some force, it opens. You can't even hear that, but there is something rubbing somewhere that is creating that noise, and just wanted to let you know it's not really a big detractor for me, but it is definitely something to note. So as far as that goes, though, just really, really good overall opening and closing, really smooth, easy to, hard to do that on camera, but it is pretty smooth to close. And then also the lockup, absolutely flawless. No up and down, no left and right, extremely tight. So great job by Ruike putting this knife together and making a really gorgeous functional piece. All right, and now the last, and maybe to a lot of you, and the most important thing when it comes to value, and the thing that drives my impression, is how much I paid for the knife and what I got for it. This knife cost $36.95 on Amazon, which is where I picked it up. This other one I actually bought from them direct, and I'll talk about that when I do that review, but $36.95 on Amazon. So last night, when I was planning this review and thinking about the particulars of what I wanted to say, I was thinking about every single knife that I've ever owned that was sub $40. And I was trying to think of one knife, any one of those knives, that's better than this. That I could say, confidently, oh, well, that's better than this Ruike Fang. And I couldn't come up with the answer. I went through old videos. I tried to find all the budget knives that I ever had. I went through my collection, and, there are some really good knives out there with some really good materials. And, I was thinking about just a ton of different knives. And guys, this one for $37, I don't know that there's a better option out there. I'm just extremely impressed with the level of quality that you get for that money. All right, the fact that you have a really well-built manual flipper at $37, Sandvik steel, the quality of the G10, the fit and finish, the ergonomics, this knife is fantastic at that price point. If someone handed this knife to me and said, hey, this is a $75 knife, maybe I wouldn't buy it at that point, but I wouldn't argue with it. I would think that was fair at a $75 price point. A lot of the Kaisers, those Kaiser knives with VG10 are running that same price point, and I can't imagine any of those like being too much better apart from the steel than this. And just really, really impressed with the amount of value that you get. And I define value as getting a knife at a price point and having it deliver better than other knives at the same price point. And this certainly does that. If that's the definition of value, then this is the highest value knife that I can think of. Because there's no other knife that comes to mind that delivers and functions and performs at the $37 price point the way this does. So definitely wanted to talk about this knife. Definitely wanted to do a review on it, and not to dampen the mood, but I do want to go out there and say that when I do this review for this Ruike, it's not on the same level as this. It's a good knife and I like it a lot, but it didn't blow me away the way this one did. So I'm not sure that it's something that goes like along the whole line. This one sort of really meets the expectation when it comes to a comparison to a real steel. All right. And I know that Real Steel is really upping their game as well. So hopefully, we're going to continue to get more and more really great models and designs from all of these companies. It's a very exciting time for that. But again, I just really wanted to talk about this knife and tell you why it is such a big win for me. All right, so that's all I've got. Obviously, if you have any kind of history with this one or any kind of background, if you wanted to buy it or thinking about it, have it, any experience, let me know. Any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, down below is the perfect place to talk about it. I would love to hear from you. But thank you very much for watching. I do have some really other exciting videos coming up very soon, so stay tuned, and I will talk with you soon. Take care.